Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now over the course of the 25 days that this Radeon HD 4350 was listed on eBay, it amassed a whopping 23 views. I'm surprised we didn't crash the servers with that sort of traffic. Maybe I was asking a bit much. For the past week it's also been on a few local selling sites for just a fiver, where it's also garnered no interest. My backup plan was to sell it to CEX for £2 cash or a £3 voucher, but it would cost me the same to buy a box to send it in. After a week or two of working as hard as I've ever worked to try and earn £5, I then put this card outside of my house on the wall with a piece of paper that said, "Free, please take." I don't know what went wrong, but the next morning the piece of paper had gone and the graphics card was still there. You may remember that I pulled this 512MB DDR2 HD 4350 from a working desktop PC, which I cleaned up in a video. I tested Crysis briefly, but that was it. Admittedly, it isn't much of a gamer, it never was, and even though the last drivers for it came out in 2013 and were designed for Windows 8, they can still be installed under Windows 10. So what can this thing do? Games like GTA 3 will run smashingly. Because a higher frame rate can mess with the physics of the game, this is best played at 30 frames per second anyway, a target that the card will handle just fine. I mean, it can be quite amusing to watch Claude and pedestrians fly across the screen at random intervals, but this obviously isn't ideal when trying to complete story missions. Newer iterations of the GTA franchise will also work, and Grand Theft Auto 5 with its DirectX 10 support will run and play at about 20 frames per second, give or take, but it will refuse to work at any resolution higher than 800 by 600. I tried to make this game full screen using every trick up my sleeve, but it was to no use. We were confined to this little window here. Next up on our sub 30 FPS adventure, we have a title that makes my previous joke immediately obsolete. CSGO ran between 30 and 60 frames per second at 800 by 600. This one worked at full screen as well, so we could see exactly what was going on. Now, who wouldn't want this graphical powerhouse inside their system? Maybe my initial asking price was a bit steep, but a fiver for a card that plays classic games as well as popular esports titles like CSGO, well, that's a bargain if you ask me. So since recording the initial footage, I have had an offer on my Radeon HD 4350. There was a bit of a catch, however. The buyer, who offered me £3 on a local selling page, wants to know if it can run the original version of Mafia II, an absolutely legendary game as far as I'm concerned. So here we are. Now, as someone who spent a lot of time gaming on an AMD APU 10 years ago, 800 by 600 and 30 FPS is playable to me, but it of course may not be for everyone. Mafia 2 is also one of my favourite single-player games of all time, so I'm probably a little biased. I'll have to update you in a pinned comment as to whether or not my potential buyer feels the same, but for now, the 4350, the card I couldn't even give away, might have just found a new home. And that's all there really is to this video. I had to retest the card to make sure it was working before someone hopefully wanted it, so yeah, I thought I'd document me doing that and then testing a few games. So if you enjoyed it, leave a like, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll be back with another graphics card review, albeit something a little more powerful, in the next one.